Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth. So we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. I'm coming right back at you guys with part 2 of the Sacred Sites, a traveler's guide to North America's most powerful mystical landmarks. Now, what we're going to get into is the Devil's Tower. We always, that looks like a tree stump. It's a huge rock that looks like a tree. When you kind of connect that back to, our movie of Avatar and the cutting down of Great Tree, the trees look similar. Kind of just a pretty much like giving us a glimpse of how things used to be. Now, we just looked at how in the Badlands it used to be like a jungle, like a swampland, as they say. But it used to be a totally different type of environment a long time ago. But see, and they know this, but they just give you how it looks today and make it seem like it's never changed this whole time. But we're going to take a look at the Devil's Tree right here. Well, Devil's Tower anyways. Okay, we're going to read a little bit of this. Now, you're going to be pretty amazed when you start to read, how we used to hand down our information, word of mouth. We used to give it to, give our oral traditions. And the natives here did the same thing. Now, if the natives today were the ones that were here a long time ago, hey, we don't know. Are they taking our oral traditions and passing them down? We don't know exactly. But we do know that our people were here. And that's what they've been doing, was they establish a new people on our lands and make it seem like they've been there the entire time. Now, we know that, our people intermingled, so our people are going to be in all different types of people. There's going to be Hebrew Israelites in all walks of life. We understand that. But I'm not going to believe that every single person that they say is a native is a native. Just like they're trying to make it seem like all black people are all Judah, all in North America. Like I said, you can't go like that. You got to go off the spirit. Now, if these people have the spirit of actually telling the truth and the whole truth, and see, that's really, at this point, that's really how you have to look at people. Are people going to accept the truth of who we are as a people? If they're just going to be quiet and ignore the truth that's coming out, those aren't your people. So you got to look at things, you got to take your time and try the spirits of all the people that are around us. That's why the people on the, we used to look at the 12 tribes chart. Like I said, some people in all these areas might be some of our people. But there's a whole weeding out process, really, you got to look at this point. It's a big weeding out process. Gentiles, are getting weeded out, the ones that aren't accepting the truth. Israelites are getting weeded out because they're not accepting the truth. Our cousins, Shemites, getting weeded out because they don't accept the truth. And then after you do all that weeding out process, then you get what's left. The ones that the Most High is talking to at this point. So, like I said, they're going to talk about the oral traditions of the Sioux people, the Sioux Nation, okay? So we're going to take a look here real fast. Like I said, just remember, like, a lot of these oral traditions, like I said, this goes worldwide. The Asians act like they've got all these oral traditions. How do we know those aren't our oral traditions that they've just taken for themselves? East Indians have done the same. How do we know that they haven't taken our oral traditions? Because we already saw an example of that with the Irish. how they took our oral traditions, they rewrote them in their own language and make it seem like it's them. I would venture to say that's been happening worldwide. So let's check out this oral tradition right here and see who it fits. It's going to fit someone. I think you'd be pretty amazed who this fits. It says, Devil's Tower is the stuff from which myths and legends are made. It's a bold, unearthly looking rock tower with large crevices, okay, down its sides. It seemingly defies explanation as it rises from the surrounding land as high as a 100-story building. There's nothing else quite like it. I mean, look at it. It's all by itself, cropping up out of the ground, and there's nothing around there quite like it. Native Americans called Devil's Tower Mato Tabila, or Bear Lodge. This Sioux legend about the discovery of Mato Tapila was told by Short Bull in 1932. Recorded by Dick Stone and Shirley Rothboone in the book First Encounters, Indian Legends of Devil's Tower. Now check this part out. Who does this sound like? In the Sioux tribe, long ago, was a brave warrior who often went alone into the wilderness, where he would fast and worship the Great Spirit in solitude. Being alone helped him to strengthen his courage so that in the future he could carry out his plans. Does that not sound like Yahushai going out to the wilderness so he could fast and worship the Great Spirit in solitude? Does that not sound like Yahushai? And in being alone helped him to strengthen his courage. And we know that Yahushai, had to have his strength. He had to strengthen his courage in order to, follow through with the plan that the Most High had for him. That sounds a whole lot like Yahushai. Now we know that these events did not occur over in the so-called Middle East. And this is an oral tradition that's been passed down for a very long time. What do you guys think? See, a lot of these oral traditions now kind of makes it seem like why you understand why these books are so expensive, because they give you an alternative to what you've been taught. See, before you didn't have an alternative. It's pretty much they said that, Jesus went out to the wilderness. This all happened in the Middle East. And if you think otherwise, you're an idiot. You're crazy. That's what you've been told by the Gentiles. Even though now we know that they can't prove, that these events happened over there. You know what I mean? So when they can't prove it, they change it to, well, it must not have happened at all. If you can't prove that it happened here, it didn't happen at all. And I said that's exactly what they've been doing this entire time. It's pretty much the way they break it down. And if you don't agree with it, then you're crazy. Hold on real fast. I'm looking for something. And they cannot prove that the walls of Jericho were taken down over there in the so-called Middle East. They don't have anything that proves that happened over there. They don't have any proof that there was these great cities over there during that time. But now you have a story that's been handed down that sounds a lot like Yahushai actually going into the wilderness over here, going with the Great Spirit in order to be strengthened for the great deeds that was to come in the future. So again, let's read it again. Devil's Tower is the stuff from which myths and legends are made. It's a bold, unearthly looking rock tower with large crevices down its sides. It seemingly defies explanation as it arises from the surrounding land as high as a 100-story building. There's nothing else quite like it. Native Americans call Devil's Tower Mato Tapila, or Bear Lodge. This Sioux legend about the discovery of Mato Tapila was told, by Short Bull in 1932. So this is like 1932. But the main thing was that right there in the Sioux tribe long ago was a brave warrior who often went alone into the wilderness, where he would fast and worship the Great Spirit in solitude. Being alone helped him to strengthen his courage so that in the future he could carry out his plans. And we know that not only just in the Bible, but it talks about it also in the other books about how Yahushua would go out by himself into the wilderness. It says, one day this warrior took his buffalo skull and went alone into the wilderness to worship. Standing at the base of Mato Tapila, after he had worshipped for 2 days, he suddenly found himself on top of this high rock. He was very much frightened, and he did not know how he would get down. After appealing to the Great Spirit, he went to sleep. When he awoke, he was very glad to find that he was again at the base of this high rock. He saw that he was standing at the door of a big bear's lodge. There were footprints of a very big bear. He could tell that the cracks in the big rock were made by the big bear's claws. So he knew that all the time he had been on top of the big rock. He had been standing on a big bear's lodge. From this time on, his nation called this big high rock, Mato Tapila. They went there often to worship. Now, this is really important right here also. The buffalo skull is still on top of this big rock and can be seen on the highest point. In many Native American legends about the tower's formation, people are being chased by a giant bear and pray to the Great Spirit to save them. Under their feet, pushing them upward toward the sky, rises a tremendous rock. The giant bear is so angry he claws at the side of the growing mountain. And these are the crevices that are still there today. Often the spirits of those saved are not abandoned on top of the tower, but transformed into star groups such as the Pleiades or the Big Dipper. Though a number of tribes called the Black Hills home and had their individual territories, Mato Tapila was shared as a sacred area for worship and vision quest by the honored members of all tribes and warriors. Sometimes chiefs and elders of the Sioux were buried near the tower. Now, see right here, you got a sacred area for worship where all the other nations could come together and worship there. It wasn't anyone's particular home, but it was a specific place of worship. So you got, like I said, so I'm sure we have places where we could come together as a people to worship the Most High. Places in the wilderness in order to, there were actually strong places of worship. I'm sure they had sacred energies there. It kind of reminds you, if you remember the movie of Avatar, how they would have their tree where they lived, but then they would have Awa where they would go and actually come together and pray. And it seemed to be a place that was very sacred to the people. So it kind of makes the same sense kind of right here. They would have their homelands, they would also have their energies, but they would all come together in certain areas and pray together, kind of like a place, that's neutral. Like I said, they're not making up anything new in these movies. They know exactly what they're doing. It says when the name was changed to Devil's Tower in 1875, see, you got all these new names, and they want to act like that's all that's been there. Okay, so it changed to Devil's Tower in 1875 by a treaty-breaking scientific team that was there to confirm reports of gold. The Indians thought it was pretty silly. If there was a devil in the tower, they pointed out, they wouldn't have been going there for hundreds of years to worship God. Exactly. If there was really a devil there, that would not have been a sacred place for our people to have gone to worship. It says, but by 1875, they had realized the white man had a very different relationship to the land than they did. Exactly. They had a much different relationship to the land. And see, these people were only coming here for what? To confirm reports of gold. They were only there to make some money. That's all they looked at the land is what can you give me? What can you give me? That's what the white man here was worried about. Getting some resources in order for him to make some money for himself. The natives didn't look at the land like that. So like I said, they had a very different relationship to the land. So it's similar to the pervasive attraction of many sacred sites from culture to culture. The tower later became a natural gathering place of ranchers and relatives in Wyoming who would meet there for 4th of July celebrations. In 1906, President Teddy Roosevelt made Devil's Tower the first of 18 national monuments to be protected under the new Antiquities Act. It has even played a role in contemporary culture. Devil's Tower was a serendipitous location Steven Spielberg used for the starship landing in his film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. No doubt a very logical choice, with centuries of worship to the Great Spirit and vision quest played out at Devil's Tower. It has probably been and still is the site of all sorts of encounters. So we know that it's been more than hundreds of years. The Most High made that a sacred site from jump. But you can see how they take these places over. They make it so you can't go certain areas. They control the movement around these areas because they don't want us to make those connections once again. But the Most High is opening up our eyes to understand what's going on, and so we understand what the Most High is about to do in order to restore the ley lines and restore the power that we once had and the connection that we once had to these wonderful sacred places. All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.